million people living in California.
Yeah. Okay, let's go by percentages. District of Columbia, 16.5.
Considering the size, that's a lot.
It is because they are by far the largest.
Well, you know why that is. People are aiming at congressmen and senators, but they wind up hitting innocent people.
Yeah.
You know.
Most of the states are 2 point something. Arizona 3.6. Florida's 3.9. Georgia 3.8.
See, you have Illinois.
Michigan 4.2.
Illinois is 2.8, but I'll bet most of that is in Chicago.
Yeah. New York is 2.7. Right along the same as Florida. Florida's a little higher, I'm sorry, 3.9. North Carolina 3. Oklahoma 3.
Oh, South Carolina
4.5.
Good old Lindsey Graham.
Looks like the really bad is Chicago. Not Chicago, I mean District of Columbia.
And believe it or not, I think the next highest one was South Carolina, 4.5.
Delaware 4.2. Arizona 3.6. Where is what's his name? The ex-president live? What state is that?
Bush lives in Texas.
No, the ex-vice president.
Cheney?
Cheney.
I think he was from Wyoming.
Wyoming. That death rate's got to be high just because of him.
0.9.
Very low. Wisconsin's low. West Virginia.
Well, look at the population in Wyoming.
Washington,
It's only got a little bit more than 500,000 people.
We're going by percentages, though. That's all I'm going by.
But I'm just saying, look at the population in Wyoming. Who the heck lives in Wyoming? Buffalo?
I don't know. Well, yeah, the percentages is probably the best way of looking. Pennsylvania's a little higher, 3.6.
Even Rhode Island, small little Rhode Island, has twice the population that Wyoming has. It's amazing.
And very low murder rate, 1.5. South Dakota, 1.0 percentage. 0.3, lowest is Vermont so far.
You know why? That's because when you fire a gun, the bullets freeze when they come out in the winter.
Let's see what Hawaii is.
You hear what I said?
Yes, I heard you. I didn't think it was funny. Ha 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 ha.
You didn't think it was funny? Why not?
Why isn't Hawaii? 0.5, also very low. So, I mean, the reality, murder rates, except for maybe in District of Columbia, which are really out of proportion. There's
I wouldn't be surprised if
Missouri's over 5%. They're 5.4. There's a Maryland is 5.1. And there really isn't anybody else that's over 5, looks like. So those are the highest right there. District of Columbia. I'm looking for those 5s. Maryland. Even Michigan is not at 5. 4.2 is still high. Yeah. This is more interesting. Murder rate per 100,000 inhabitants in 2010. This is where the numbers are going crazier. 21.8, District of Columbia. Louisiana, 9.6. Well, looks like Louisiana is one of the highest when it comes to per ratio. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's go see what happened to our show. I think we lost our show. That's the problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, the number to call, 646-595-3275.
And if you're on there holding, waiting for us, I apologize. We're going to go right back and take calls. I think we've neglected our phones. And I don't think we missed any calls.
No, and I don't think anyone's in our chat room either, for that matter.
Well, we lost the chat room, so we'll put the chat room back on. Sorry about that.
Throngs of people. Look at this. My goodness.
Anyway, so this is what we talk about. This is what the show's about today.
This is the way Felix rolls.
That's it. So we know we got plenty of murders. And the president's been taking a lot of heat for doing all these fundraisers all through all these times.
All of these what?
Through these last couple of, for the last month with Ebola and everything that's been going on, the president's doing fundraisers almost every day.
No, he's also been speaking about these things. You know, if you, I've been, watching news programs, and they always say, the president's coming on at 3:30, he's coming on at 12:30, whatever, talking about Ebola, talking about the Secret Service, ISIS. I mean, look, the man has a lot on his plate. That's what he has a cabinet for, and that's what he has a vice president for. He's been keeping up as well as he can. He is only one person.
Wait a second, we do have a call. Let me pick up the call. Hi, this is, you're on the show. And who's calling?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
I hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi.
How are you?
This is Connie.
Hello, Connie.
I'm Connie, and I'm Jeff Kirshner's girlfriend. I thought maybe you'd like to know who I am.
Okay.
That works.
That works. How are you, Connie, today?
Okay, great. We're listening to your show, and I noticed you're talking about, of course, guns and murder. I just figured that I'd like to tell you about something that might be interesting in a different vein of thought. I'm from Rockland County, and Rockland County,
Mark is funny.
Well, first of all, yes, I have to say, Mark, that was a very funny thing you mentioned about Vermont when you said something with the bullets freezing.
Well, unfortunately, Felix has no sense of humor. I thank you, Connie. Yeah,
I'm not supposed to.
I tend to add comic relief to the show.
Well, sometimes comic relief is important. You need it.
That's exactly what I used to say.
Well, this show's not exactly that serious all the time anyway. Even though we do talk about serious topics.
Well, we try to keep...
I'd like to say hello to and to Mark, both of you.
Thank you.
So what's your story?
And what I'd like to possibly bring up, it's a little different, if you don't mind going in a different vein. Right now, if anyone's interested, you remember the movie 12 Angry Men with Henry Fonda?
Oh, sure. It's a classic.
Absolutely.
Right, that classic. And, of course, 12 men were in the jury room deciding on the fate of a 19-year-old black boy who supposedly stabbed his father to death.
Wasn't it a Puerto Rican?
He was black.
He was black? I thought he was Puerto Rican. But you see, Felix would have found him guilty just on first glance.
I would have?
Yeah.
Okay, you say so.
Well, very interesting. My community theater in Rockland County, it's called Antrim Playhouse. And the Antrim Players have been around we're in our 78th season. We are doing right now 12 Angry Jurors, which is a takeoff of 12 men. And the only difference is that we have men and women in the play. It's community theater at its best with top actors and actresses. And we are doing, in fact, I am one of the jurors. I am juror number 2. And I have to be one of the people who decide the fate of this boy. We have to decide whether he really did kill his father, whether there is enough evidence, and it's actually with a knife, not a gun, a stab. Whether this stabbing was done by this boy and whether he will... All 12 jurors have to be unanimous in either voting guilty or not guilty. And this is a very gripping, exciting show. It's so exciting. And I just thought maybe I'd bring it up and maybe we could talk about that.
Well, go ahead, Felix.
I was going to say, how did they find him in the play?
Well, in 12 Angry Men, Henry Fonda was the only one who had questions about, the guilt of this young boy, and I remember one of the jurors had a Dodger game that he had to go to. Okay, the Brooklyn Dodgers were playing.
That's right.
Another guy was a taxi driver, and he had some run-ins with minorities in the past. Everybody brought their own personal prejudices.
Of course.
Okay, and then there were a couple of people who weren't really sure one way or the other, and then you had, I think it was Lee J. Cobb, who was like a bully, and he was bullying people. The people who were sort of wishy-washy about, they weren't sure if there was enough to convict, but they weren't speaking up, and every time they wanted to say something, he would denigrate them and put them down. Okay, so they basically were afraid to say much of anything. But one by one,
they turned to with Henry Fonda.
Henry Fonda managed to convince them that there was reasonable doubt, and that's the only thing you have to vote on. Is there any reasonable doubt? Okay, and if there's reasonable doubt, you have to acquit.
Did you guys
go along? That's absolutely right.
Did you go along the same play line with this?
Exactly. It's word for word the exact, except instead of all men, we have 7 men and 5 women in the show that are in the jury. And actually, it is very, very interesting and psychologically interesting to see how, like you said, the Henry Fonda character, which in our show is a woman who plays the part. She's the protagonist. She's the one who poses the question, there could be a reasonable doubt. Whereas they take a vote, 11 people vote guilty right away. And one person, the Henry Fonda character, votes not guilty, just as Mark says. And little by little, the discussions go on and on and on in the jury room until one by one, each one changes his or her vote. And you're right. There's one person, juror number 10, who's a bigot. He's terrible, and he just talks about, quote, those people. About the way those people are. And of course, it's terrible to say, but we can say that those people, doesn't only mean black people, but he means those people for every denomination, whether someone's Jewish or Irish or anything.
Those people,
anybody
that's not him, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny.
But we still are doing the show, and I'd like to say if anybody lives near Rockland County, New York, we have 2 more weekends of the show, October 10th, 11th, and 12th, and October 17th, 18th, and 19th. They could go, if you don't mind, I can tell them they can go on Antrim, Antrim, playhouse.com, and they can look up all the